introduce yourself, please, and members of your task force who may be attending, and then we'll go to the transportation planners who can introduce themselves. Lori, if you can hear me, you can jump in, please. Well, I saw her name there. Maybe she's not able to make audible connections for some reason. Steve, why don't we start with you and your staff, and you can introduce yourselves and tell us what your roles are, please.
Sure. Why don't we go this way? So my name's Steve Knutson, and I work with Fairfax County Department of Transportation. And I want to welcome everybody to this meeting tonight to discuss the traffic calming plan for Glenbrook Road. And we've already met Patricia Leslie. She's the staff member from the Providence District Supervisor's Office, who has also been working on this effort. And also we have Banaz Raouf and Nicole Machakwe from FCDOT. And we do have a short presentation that we're going to show. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A that will follow the presentation. And Patricia, how about during the Q&A, we can have the task force members introduce themselves if they are able to and if they would like to. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Take it away, planners.
All right, so I think we're just going to go ahead and start. I think Nicole is going to run through the presentation. So Nicole, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start.
Hi, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are here, as Steve said, to discuss and explain the traffic calming process for Glenbrook Road. First, I want to we'll go over a couple of items before I begin. Please note the session will be recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, and the instructions for how to ask the questions will be provided after the presentation. Today, we are here to explain the traffic calming process, provide opportunity for the community feedback, and answer any questions you all might have. So let's begin with what traffic calming is. Traffic calming is the installation of physical devices to reduce vehicular speed. These devices can be either vertical or horizontal. Vertical devices are driven over, such as a speed hump shown in the upper left corner, while you drive around horizontal devices such as raised median island in the right-hand side in the image there. Both types of the devices make the road safer for both drivers and pedestrians. I do want to note that through this process, we do not, or we are not permitted to install stop signs. Here we have charts and images showing the effect of decreased speed. As speed decreases, visual acuity, field of vision and depth perception increase. Also, with reduced speed, we come to a significant reduction in the number of severity of crashes involving motor vehicles. So here on this slide, we have a map of traffic calming projects throughout the county. There are over 200 projects resulting into almost 500 devices countywide. Every district has a device, and chances that you have driven over one are pretty high. So the upcoming program can be broken into 5 steps. Step 1 is project initiation. Step 2 is plan development. Step 3 is community engagement. Step 4 is ballot phase. And step 5, which is the final step, is project installation. So as I mentioned earlier, all traffic calming projects are always community initiated. The process begins with the request from the community to the supervisor's office. Once the request is received, we will first complete a basic eligibility review. Next, we will conduct a traffic study, and once it passes both the eligibility review and the traffic study, the community will then form a task force. There are eligibility requirements that need to be met. The road must be VDOT maintained, have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, be functionally classified as local or collector or arterial, and if it's collector or arterial, it needs to be a residential street. There is also a traffic study component. Here we have a traffic study results for Glenbrook Road. For the volume criteria, we need between 500 to 6,000 vehicles in a 24 hours, both directions combined. For this project, we had 1,865, so we met the volume criteria. And for the speed criteria, the 85th percentile of speed needs to be greater than or equal to 35 miles per hour. This means that 15% of vehicles need to be traveling at least 35 miles per hour or faster in at least one direction of travel. So for the speed we found for Glenbrook Road, we found 38 in the eastbound lane and 34 in the westbound lane, which means that it met the speed criteria as well. So the plan development is the second step. First, we will conduct a site visit in the field in order to develop a draft plan. Once we have the draft plan, we will meet with the task force to get feedback and then amend the plan if necessary. Once the task force is satisfied with the draft plan, homeowners directly adjacent to the proposed measures will need to sign off the placement of the device in order to move on to the next step. Here we have device placement requirements. Based on the guidelines, we need a minimum of 300 feet between existing measures and from existing stopping conditions. We need a minimum of 150 feet from any intersection. We need a minimum of 150 feet for adequate sight distance with any device. And it needs to fit on the existing roadway. So we have to take into account any driveways, manholes, or utilities. We also have to take into account the grade of the road. So based on the requirements, we were able to draft a plan and proposed 2 speed humps, as you can see on the map here. And the addresses that are listed are the ones that signed off because signed off on the devices because they are adjacent to the devices. Here we have a graphic of a speed hump. So it's going to be 12 feet long, and at the height, it's going to be 3 inches in the center. Here we have a schematic for speed hump. Speed hump, as I said before, is 12 feet long and 3 inches high at center. There will also be a white chevron in each lane, as well as a speed hump sign that has a recommended 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on each side of the device. So step 3 is a community meeting, which we are here today. This is where we present the plan to the community to obtain feedback. And based on the feedback, the task force will decide whether to amend the plan or proceed to the next phase. If the task force decides to move forward, we can move forward to ballot phase. Each household in the ballot area will receive 1 vote. It will need to send directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period will be open for a minimum of 3 weeks, and supervisor's office will tally the votes and notify task force of the results. Here we have an example of the ballot. The proposed devices will be listed on the ballot, and the community will be voting for the entire plan. The task force is responsible for distributing the valid ballot packages to everyone in the ballot area. Each household in the ballot area will receive 1 vote. It will need to send directly to the supervisor's office. And there are 3 ways that you can do this. You can send it by mail. The ballot you can send by the mail, or you can send hand deliver it to the supervisor's office, or you can email to the supervisor's office. I would like to note that ballots should not be returned to the task force. Okay, here we have the ballot area map for Glenbrook Road. So there are 102 ballots, and in order for the proposed plan to move forward, we will need greater than 50% of all households to vote in favor. So we will need 52 yes votes in order for the plan to move forward. If we get the required number of yes votes, we can move on to step 5, which is project installation, which is the final step. So traffic calming plan will be presented to Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement, and then the resolution will be sent to VDOT. FCDOT will work with the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services to schedule installation. And finally, traffic calming measures on the plan will be installed. And here we are at the end of the presentation. We can move on now to our questions and answers. So here on the slide, you can see I'm sorry, to go ahead with the process. You have 2 options. You can chat or speak. Once the chat item is active on Teams, you can use it by typing in your question. And if you want to speak, click the raise hand or raise your hand icon, and you will be unmuted once it's your turn. If you are on the phone, please push *5 to raise your hand. When it is your turn, the host will call on you to ask your question. You need to push *6 to unmute yourself. And after you are finished, please push *5 to unraise your hand. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Lori Lash is the head of the task force. Would someone, or Lori, if you'll raise your hand, please, and introduce other members of your task force who may be attending. Sue Schumann, the president of the HO or the Civic Association, texts that she cannot get into the meeting by using the phone number.
Yeah.
Phone number is not working for her?
Yes, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm Lori Lash, and so I'm heading the task force for Glenbrook Road. It was started by Randy Richardson, and I took over for him. Also on the task force is Gerald Anderson and Ken Bibaraji, which I don't see them on the call or on this call right now, so I'm not sure if they're here. But we started last fall this process in hopes of making our Glenbrook Road a bit safer.
All right, thank you, Lori. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so right now.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and just start calling on the people that have raised their hands. So
the first person that I can see raised the hand is, I cannot pronounce the name, maybe Drusilla.
Drusilla?
I'm not, yep. I'm sorry for mispronouncing the name, so I go ahead and try to unmute you. Let's see if you can speak.
It does look like she's still muted.
So let me check the options. I see. Hello, mic for attendees is on.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes.
can, yes.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Drusilla Breathwaite, duty here in the neighborhood. I've been here about 40 years. And I want to thank Lori and Task Force and all of you for all of your efforts to address this problem. So I sent an email a little bit earlier this week to the DOT folks, and I don't know if you received it, but Lori did. Because I guess my question is, we have, when I first moved here, we had no speed bumps, and speed bumps have really been helpful to the community over the years, but we keep having to put more and more in, right? So they have limited effectiveness. So the question I posed to the DOT folks was, this is 2023, so what is the role for speed cameras here? It seems to me that they could be really effective. I know that it looked like Fairfax County is going to be doing a pilot program and with some work areas and some schools. And so this is a residential neighborhood, but how really cool would it be to get some of that study money to do this short piece of Glenbrook to see how effective those would be as opposed to, a physical barrier. Again, we have old tools for a problem that we continue to have. So maybe we need to use some new tools and some new electronic tools. So whoever can answer that question, I would be grateful. Thank you.
So as you noted that there is a pilot program, I think it would probably take a little while for them to go through this pilot program and see what sort of impacts they're having in those school zones and those work zones before they just move it into general use or application. So unfortunately, we're at the very beginning of that process. It could take a bit of time before they're made available or readily available to other locale or other parts of the county beyond the schools and the work zone. So unfortunately, Drusilla, it would probably, it's probably going to take a couple of years for that pilot program to kind of run its course and for people to assess the impacts.
So who would be the individual to help, even if it's down the road, right? Because Mantua has had this problem for decades, right?
Mhm.
So who would be the individual who would initiate that conversation? Would that be Dahlia Palchak, or who would start that conversation so we could be in the forefront of looking at that opportunity?
I mean, that would probably be the best place to start. So Supervisor Palchak would, have, the strongest voice and the voice that's going to carry the most weight. So, I think Patricia could probably, let Supervisor Palchak know that there is, interest in this going beyond the pilot phase and the constraints of the program as it's set up now as a pilot program.
Drusilla,
Okay.
this is,
Thank you. And Patricia, I'd be happy to work with Dahlia on that. So if you would like to get my information later on, or I can email you, that'd be great.
okay, that is fine. Yes, I welcome the information, which I shall be happy to pass on to the supervisor.
Okay, I
All
think
right,
we'll
so
move on to the next person.
Sure. So the next person is Larry. So I'm going ahead and mute you. I
Can
think
you
we
hear me
can
now?
hear you. Yes.
Great. I have a question of whether the ballots can include an answer for someone who wants traffic calming measures, but not necessarily speed bumps.
Well, as Nicole pointed out earlier, that, you know, the ballot will be for what's presented here tonight unless the task force wants to stop this process, back up and reassess. And then the plan would need to be changed, and then the ballot would go out representing those changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next person is I apologize if I mispronounced the names of Varconi.
Yes, can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Yes, you pronounced it very well, thank you. I'm Irvin Varconi, I'm Vice President for the MCA. I'm not on the task force. I'm on Prince William Drive, and we have a couple of speed bumps here. They have moderate effect, so on that issue, I think there's a, but I had an issue, a question on the process. You have 102 households which will get the ballot, and you said you need 50% to approve. Do you need 50% of 102, or do you need 50% of how many are turned in? And the second part of that question is, how long do the households have to turn in the ballot? Thank you.
Well, it's actually greater than 50%. So it is of the issued ballots, not of the returned ballots. So we do need 52 to say yes. And generally, we leave it open for about 3 weeks, and that return by date will be listed on a cover letter in the ballot itself. So the person receiving the ballot will know when they need to return it by.
So when you said in terms of 50, so you need 52 yes votes, but if
Mhm.
there are only 70 people who've returned the ballots, that's a pretty high percentage of the ones that are there. Is that a normal process that the county has?
It had been changed recently at the state level. We used to have a return rate and then a percentage of that return. But VDOT wanted to make the change to just greater than 50% of the issued ballot. So since this is, you know, us running a program on roadways that the state maintains, we had to adhere by their request or their, you know, their lead.
I appreciate that. It's a high standard to have
It is.
of all that are issued. We don't normally have elections that way in this country, and so forth. So, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So there is a question on chat. Charles asked to see the results of the traffic study. The slide was up. So
If we want to return to that slide really quick. So hopefully that's sufficient. So we're looking for an 85th percentile speed in one of the directions or both directions. That's 10, that's greater than 10 miles over the posted speed limit or 35 miles an hour. So we did achieve that in the eastbound direction on the subject road. So and then also the volume criteria is between 500 and 6,000 trips a day. And for the data set that we collected, we had 1,865 trips over the traffic counter during that 24-hour period.
all right. So Nancy has asked a question in chat. How will the ballot be advertised to the 102 houses? And she has raised a hand as well. I don't know if it is the same question. Otherwise, you can speak, Nancy, if you have more questions.
Thank you. It was basically the same question, but I also wanted to thank the task force. I've been living here for 18 years and we've had a lot of accidents actually at the corner of Santa Ana and Glenbrook. I live right on Glenbrook, 2 houses from the corner of Santa Ana. And so I really appreciate all the effort that went into this. It's a good beginning for the kinds of things we have to do in Mantua. So thank you, Lori and the task force. Very grateful for this work. So yeah, I am, I did have to follow up on Larry's, was it Larry? No, Irv's question about the ballots. We've had certain things in the past with sidewalks, and we've had people resisting that, different houses that have been affected by it. And I'm curious about the ballot. I really hope that we can get this advertised. I would like to know what efforts are going to be done in the community, what can be done to get the 52 yeses, because I mean, you clearly know what my advocacy is. I think it's an important phase, and I do agree it's a high standard, but anyway, so I'm curious what the thoughts are around that.
The ballot process is something that the task force will, have to work through. We have templates that we'll issue. They'll have to fill them out to reflect this current project. There'll be a cover letter, a map, and the schematic for the device or devices that are being proposed. And then they would have to produce them and disperse them to the 102 addresses that are in the ballot area. As far as advertising, I'm assuming, are you talking about before or after they have been dispersed? That would be tools that, pardon? Both?
All of the above. It's just like getting the word out, because people can overlook it and toss it, without knowing that it's an important.
Exactly.
document.
So, what we generally tell the task force is, they have their tools of communication. They need to use those, whatever they have readily available, and use them as best they can. They can always ask the supervisor's office, how many ballots have been returned. We can give them a return total, let them know that, yes, we're, still looking for more ballots to come in to, push the process over the finish line. As far as the advertisement is concerned, that is kind of up to the community.
Thank you.
All right, so we go to next question. Charles on chat asked 2 questions. Did you say the adjacent households already approved the speed humps?
Right. So as Nicole pointed out in the presentation, during the process, when we identify locations where a device can go on the roadway and what seems suitable to the task force, we then issue to the task force what is called an affected or adjacent property form. And the task force members then take it to the property owners that are identified on that form and explain what's being proposed for the roadway in front of their house or adjacent to their house, and ask if they would sign off on the document. Once those signatures are obtained and returned back to Fairfax County, then we're able to move forward with signed off devices.
And the other question, he's asking about the actual data from the traffic study, not just the information on the slide.
We can send that out. We can send it to the supervisor's office, and then you can request it from them if that's possible. If that works for you, we can do that.
All right. Yes, it's Sue's turn. Suze, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Sure.
I missed the beginning of this and I apologize. Randy Richardson and Lori Lash and the community have been working on this since July 19th last year, and we have used the communication tools that we have available to put this information out. And as in anything, not everyone will look at that communication, that information, until it's closer to the time. And that's kind of where we are now. And I want to thank the county people for coming out at least twice with Randy and me and looking at what could be done, and with exploring things like the four-way stop and what perhaps cannot be done. My question though is 3 weeks really enough time, Steve? Because this is the summer. And the other thing is these ballots, 102 ballots.
I mean,
Tenants.
you're kind of going in and out there, Sue. So
Sorry.
that's okay. So you're asking if 3 weeks is enough time. So if requested, we can leave it open for a longer period of time. If, and I understand the fact that we are coming into summertime, if the task force wants to delay the issue of the ballots, they can push it back to, when school is back in session, or they can go ahead and move forward soon after this meeting. And it will fall, during summer break. And if needed, they need to request that additional time up front, because that date, the return by date, does go on the ballot and the cover letter. So if they want to extend that, they can ask ahead of time. We can give them, 4 or 5 weeks, and that should be sufficient.
Thank you. I think that Lori and the others had not thought that 3 weeks. We thought it would be a little bit longer. Thanks.
All right. I see some hands raised for Lori. I don't know if from the previous questions or you have new.
So I was just gonna follow up on Nancy's question about how it would be communicated. So I'll use, or the task force will use the same methods we use to announce this meeting. So email blast, and we don't have the newsletter in the summertime, so it'd have to be like the MCA email blasts, the MCA Facebook page, the My Mantuan neighborhood Facebook page, and then also I have had some people who have offered to volunteer to either just go door to door to explain to people what the ballot is, and then kind of remind them to fill it out, and then either they can hand deliver it to the not the task force, but the individual homes can hand deliver it to the supervisor, mail it to the supervisor, email them, but just to kind of give them a nudge, like yes or no, since all no's are all unreturned ballots are considered no's. So if you want to vote yes, you have to return your ballot. So yes, I have people who have volunteered to do that. Someone even said, like, maybe we can set up a table outside the pool and get people who, as they're going into the pool, who happen to live in the designated areas. So we're going to try to get to as many people as we can, and hopefully I know somebody on, at least one person on each affected street that will be getting the ballots, so that we can use them to also kind of speak with their neighbors and prompt them to, vote yes or no and return the ballot.
Okay, I mean, you all have, a fair amount of tools available to you. A lot of communities don't have, that many tools available to them. So, I mean, that is good to hear. Also, the thought of having like a street captain for each street that's included in the ballot area is always a good idea. I highly recommend that approach.
And Nancy has said that she would volunteer to go door to door as well.
Thank you, Nancy. I think maybe Lori Lash. Lori, did you not put your hand down, or do you have a new question?
I didn't put my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Just don't want to miss you if you do.
Okay, I see Drusilla has raised her
Yeah,
hand.
I just have a quick follow-up, and then maybe this is for Steve or Leslie. I know that it doesn't look like we can consider speed cameras for this specific challenge right now. But Steve or Leslie, is there research out there emerging regarding the effectiveness of speed cameras and speed humps?
I mean, we've been doing our own follow-up studies throughout, this program's history, and we're generally showing some, reduced speed where roads that have gone through the program, they generally are not qualifying again. We're not necessarily getting the operating speeds back down to the posted speed limit, but at least they're falling outside of that qualifying speed. I don't know about the speed cameras. I do know certain locations in Maryland and DC where they've been, pretty effectively well used.
Also, you can request from the police department, or I can request for you a radar board which shows the speed limit of motorists which approach it. I know you've seen them around. They are temporary because there are many requests for them. But if you want to email me and let me know the location you recommend for it and the times of, well, the times would not matter really for this because they do slow motorists down.
All right, thank you, Patricia. And I think Larry might have a question. If you would like to unmute yourself, Larry, if that's possible.
Right, okay. I wanted to know if you get, let's say, 20 responses, do you just say, okay, we didn't have a majority of people voting for it, so therefore it goes down? Is there an opportunity to revisit if the vote count is low?
Yeah, we generally have like a 2-year wait period to do that. So if the ballot process is not successful, then we generally would not be revisiting the road for about 2 years.
And how do you define successful?
If it doesn't pass the ballot process.
Oh, okay.
With enough support, though, this is Patricia again, from the community and with all the volunteers you have knocking on doors and communicating, it sounds like you've got a great underground effort underway, and it sounds like you're building to success. So I would feel quite enthusiastic about the proposal.
Thank you, Patricia. It looks like Matt Mullen
Matt.
has his hand.
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead and unmute yourself, Matt.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Hey, Stephen, is there a publicly accessible place that we could get some further data on the effectiveness of speed bumps? I know you mentioned, that there is some data on places that have gotten speed bumps don't qualify in the future, which sounds great. Is there anywhere we could go to get that? I just think it might be helpful in the going door-to-door balloting process.
We'll try to put together some, you mean just local data from our program?
Yeah, I mean, anything really. What I'm
Anything?
ultimately looking for is a talking point to go to neighbors and say, if we do this, it will help us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll try to come up with, a graphic that shows some impacts that the devices have had. So,
that would be incredible. Even if you
Okay.
just have like a sentence or two, that also is great.
Okay.
Anything you can produce, we are happy with, is what I'm saying.
All right. Okay.
Okay, Charles is asking, is the 3-inch high a VDOT standard?
It is a VDOT standard, so we're working off a schematic or design that VDOT has come up with. So the 12 feet across and the elevation of 3 inches from the surface of the road is the VDOT standard.
So I do not see any questions on chat or any raised hand. Okay, Sue, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks. I did want to ask if you can allow us to share this PowerPoint with the community. I had some slides of it before that we used in meetings and in the newsletter a few times, but I actually think this might be effective too, if people can go to our website, mantua.org, and find this to look at. And Matt's point about having some data to give people is important, because both one other person here and I have received emails and calls from people who hate speed bumps. And let's face it, nobody may love a speed bump. It's a traffic calming measure. So if we have this, we can also direct people who might be skeptical to go look at that. If you could send it to us, we will get it on the website. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely supply you with the PowerPoint. I think we made a transition from another online meeting platform to this Teams platform. And we're still trying to figure out how to get the video out to the communities, but we definitely have the PowerPoint presentation in a PDF format.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if this was being recorded or not. Oh, it is. Okay, good. Thanks.
And we can actually, I think, share it with the people that attended. Is that correct? We just haven't figured out how to share it beyond that.
Yeah, so we're running into like a permissions kind of thing of how Teams isn't allowing everyone to view it. So we're having to transport it from Teams into a different platform. So that's taking a little time, and hopefully we'll have that available soon. I'm thinking it's going to be available on YouTube or a YouTube channel in the near future, we're hoping.
Well, thank you. That would help. Great.
Okay, if there are no more any more questions or comments, we can end the meeting and thank everyone from the Department of Transportation, Steve and Banaz and Nicole, for their preparation and work and field observations. And Sue and Lori, thank you for the hours and hours you have spent on this. I don't know if all the residents realize how much time you've invested and how much gratitude they owe you
No,
for your time.
Patricia, we want to thank you. This has been going on since July last year, and this is actually moving quite fast if you compare it to the other speed bumps we've had in the community in the last 10 years. So thank you for helping us get this done. Thank all of you.
And we'll be getting to you the presentation as you requested. And so the next step, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is for the task force to meet and determine if it wants to move ahead or wait until school resumes for the balloting, if they want to go ahead at that time.
Yeah, why don't we pull up do we have like a next step slide there that we can show them? So the next steps will be for the task force to determine if they want to move forward with this or not. If they do, we will supply the templates for the cover letter and the ballot We will send them out a map that they can include with it and the schematic for the device that's proposed, or the two devices. And then once they've made the modifications to the ballot and the cover letter, they can send it back to Fairfax County. We'll review the documents, make sure that they reflect the things that we need to have in there correctly. And then once that happens, we will, kind of pick a date for this to end. That date will need to be inserted in the letter and the ballot itself. And then we would then have the task force produce those ballots and distribute. And I think also we just had a slide up there that has our contact information. So Nicole, if you want to go back to that. And if the ballot process is successful, Fairfax County DOT will put together a board item, take it to the Board of Supervisors, seeking their endorsement. Once we receive their endorsement, we would then send it off to DPW for installation and send it over to VDOT to have them review and give us their blessing. So if you all have further questions, you can contact Fairfax County DOT by email. You can email dot.info@fairfaxcounty.gov and just put Glenbrook Road Traffic Calming in the subject line. Our phone number to our main desk is 703-877-5600. Call that number and just reference the Glenbrook Road Traffic Calming program or project, and they should be able to put you in contact with one of the staff members here tonight. And then also the information for the Providence District Supervisor's Office is listed on this slide. Also, it's providence@fairfaxcounty.gov. And again, just have the same information in the subject line, where you can call 703-56. I think that number is incorrect there. I'm pretty sure they don't have that many digits there. Let's try this again. So that phone number would be 703-560-6946. Okay,
Being human has its downfalls.
it does. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
So long.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.